I miss my brother, sir.
Your brother is dead. We lose the ones we love. We cannot change it. Put it aside.
How? How can I do what is needed when all I feel is hate?
You hide it by listening to this episode of the Retro Rewind podcast.
Reflux capacitors fluxing. Crew to stations. Scanning for The Mask of Zorro, 1998. Prepare to rewind in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, Rewinders and new listeners, to the Retro Rewind podcast, where we take a fresh look at movies and games from 15 or more years ago. I am your captain of the pod, Francisco Ruiz, and I'm joined by your XO and mine, Paul, the PaulJPowers.com Powers.
They call me Cuban Paul. I'm the king of the rumba ball. When they play the maracas, I go chick, chicky, boom, chick, chicky, boom.
Isn't that the Mask?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Also, for this discussion of the film, The Mask of Zorro, not The Mask, we welcome back aboard ship's valet, Mike Fraley. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
Going quite well. How about you?
Doing great.
Awesome. And in addition, we are glad to have back aboard chief historian of the pod, Drew Dodgen. Hey, Drew.
Good evening. How's it going?
It's going well. Hopefully well for you as well.
Well.
Close.
And now
so close.
that you have a quick flyby of who we are, Paul, again, you give us a quick overview of the production specs for The Mask of Zorro.
Yeah, The Mask. That's what we're covering, right?
No.
July 28th, 1994?
No.
What?
The Mask of Zorro. You forgot the of Zorro part.
Are you kidding me? Oh.
One of these days, I would like to say, yeah, I'm kidding you. And everyone else is right with the movie
Look,
you're going to do.
It's not my fault. I was spaceballing. I heard
That's
The
true.
Mask.
You are
That could have been brought to my
attention yesterday. Fine. Wait, I'll go back and watch. All right, this is Zorro. The first one, right?
Yes,
not the sequel?
Not like one of the
Okay.
original Disney
The
movies or
first-
anything.
All
This is
right, the first
Mask
Zorro
of
movie, The Mark of Zorro, came out in 1920. It runs an hour and 19 minutes. It was directed by Fred Niblo. The writers
Paul?
were Yes.
Isn't that technically a Disney movie?
This is a 1998
There's one
Columbia
of them.
TriStar, one of those film. TriStar film
Oh my.
It's all
The
Sony
Mask
Pictures.
of Zorro.
Oh, hold on. Okay. So, The Mask of Zorro. The one that came out July 17th, 1998, runs 2 hours and 16 minutes.
Yes.
All right. Finally, I think. It's rated
So much for a quick
PG-13.
flyby.
It's directed by Martin Campbell. It was written by John McCauley, Ted Elliott, and Terry Ruscio, with lead stars being Antonio Banderas, Anthony Hopkins, and Tony Zeta-Jones, because everyone here is named Tony.
Oh, gosh.
The music was composed by James Horner. And are you ready for the box office trivia?
I am ready. Mike and Drew, are you both ready?
Yes.
Ready.
Awesome. And anyone who's watching live in chat is welcome to join as well. Paul, go for it.
Okay, The Mask of Zorro was made for about $95 million and earned over $230 million at the box office.
Well done, Zorro.
Given this fact, how high in the box office do you think it ranks among the movies released theatrically in 1998? We'll go for the top 50.
Top 50. All right, let's start with Mike. What's your guess?
I'm just going to guess Lucky 13.
Lucky 13. That's my number. Drew, how about you?
I'm going 8.
8. All right. And then in chat, hello, Dale. He guesses 17. For me, I'm going to guess 5. I feel like it's pretty high up there because Titanic was the year before, so we don't have to worry about that. So you have 5. So Paul, where did it actually rank?
Well, according to the-numbers.com, it came in at 15.
15. Oh, okay.
So I think Mike is the big winner for this time.
Well, no, I think 14, 15, 17. Mike and Dale are kind of tied. They're both like 2 away.
All
We'll
right.
split the prize money.
All right, good. Oh,
You can split the baby in half.
This is the Solomon. All right. Thank you for those factoids, Paul. And let's see if any of them factor into our memory mind melds or subsequent round table discussion, which we'll get into once Alice is located our target film.
Alert, alert. Target located. Spoilers incoming. Establishing analysis vector.
On July 17th,
Do you know how to use that thing?
one man
Point the end goes into the other man.
will go from 0
This is going to take a lot of work.
to Zorro.
The legend has returned!
Kill him.
From TriStar Pictures and Amblin Entertainment. The Mask of Zorro, rated PG-13.
Yes, The Mask of Zorro, rated PG-13. I don't really remember that range so much. I really thought it was going to be more of a PG, but that's how memories sort of fade. And
Yeah, I had the same thing. I was surprised by that rating too.
let's actually go into our memory mind melds of The Mask of Zorro right now, though. Odin Borson is slumming it in California back when it was a part of Mexico, pretending to be one of the 3 amigos. Meanwhile, Hannibal Lecter is Zorro until his house is burned down, wife killed, and daughter taken. Desperado wants to become Zorro, and eventually King Odin agrees to train him. Puss in Boots hides out in a confessional to keep from getting caught and ends up hearing that Morticia Adams might be in love with him, which leads to a strip sword fight. You know who the villain is when he keeps several heads in jars, and Catherine Zeta-Jones blows up the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad with some explosives to save the day. I mean, there were some details in there that were correct, but a lot of those memories were deceptive. But based on those memories, as flawed as they were, what range did they lead you to predict for this film before rewatching it? Classic, nostalgic, or tragic? Mike, what was your prediction for The Mask of Zorro?
I predicted nostalgic.
Nostalgic? How about you, Drew?
I thought it would be a classic.
Classic. Paul?
I was right there in between them. But I settled on nostalgic.
Nostalgic, okay.
Because I even though I remember enjoying it, I had no really desire to watch it anytime soon.
Okay. I get that. For me, I'm on the Drew side of things. I predicted classic as well. And it'll be interesting to see. So far with that, we're at a draw. It'll be interesting to see if those ratings pan out. But first, let's get into the things we liked most about The Mask of Zorro. Alice?
Best bets.
Alrighty, guys. So I'm going to kick things off with Drew first. What's one thing you liked about The Mask of Zorro?
I absolutely love the music in this film, especially the main heroic theme,
Really?
which I can't remember the name of, even though they sang it in the closing credits.
Is it Zorro?
No, it was like "I will love you always" or
will-
something like that.
I will
I
spend
don't like
my
the-
whole life loving you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
don't
remember
like
that
the lyrics.
song. It was slow and boring.
I don't like the lyrics. I like how it showed up throughout the rest of the film. It's played as a great heroic theme for Zorro and well, pretty much both Zorros and even Catherine Zeta-Jones in that one scene.
I think there was a motifs of it
Yes, it was a
in the
good
heroic
leitmotif.
theme, but I don't think it was the main core of the heroic theme. But
It was still that melody that would come in. I thought it did a really good job of going, yeah, this is kind of the theme of the heroes.
that's fair.
And do you remember the name of this said song rather than as we keep referring to as it?
Wasn't it Everything I Do It For You?
It was not
I think it
everything
is
I do.
One for all and all for love. I think that's what it was.
Is this
Oh,
the
is
one
that what it
that's
was?
I Want to Spend My Lifetime Loving You by
yes.
Mark
That's the-
Anthony and Tina Arena?
That's the version with the lyrics, yes.
Yeah. I'll still rest with slow and boring.
Wow. Let's go to Mike. What wasn't slow and boring about this movie for you?
Anthony Hopkins. I mean,
wow.
This guy just brought a real gravitas to the role, and I totally buy him as the wise old mentor trying to whip this no pun intended, this young whippersnapper into shape.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you know what? That's one of my likes as well. And the part I really push Anthony Hopkins' performance up for me as one of my likes. I mean, I'll put my cards a bit on the table. I feel like there's a lot to like about this movie.
Was it the Flava Beans or the Chianti?
What? Oh my gosh. No, it was how he played inner pain so well. I felt like just how this inner torment of knowing his like daughter's right there, but he can't do anything to tell her, and his just waiting for his moment to seek revenge. Not that I really feel great about that, but I thought he just played that inner pain so well. So I enjoyed that.
I thought he did a great job, and I was really impressed. This is pre-digital aging effects, I think, but I thought they did a really good job of de-aging or aging in between. I know they had like dyes of the hair and stuff that helped, but I was still impressed that what they were able to do with what they had.
Yes, yeah. I almost feel like they de-aged him for the beginning.
It's possible because computer graphics were used, like some of the ships in the water in the background were digital and things like that. So, but I don't know. It wasn't as common practice back then for de-aging as it is today.
I thought they practically de-aged him, not CG de-aged him.
Yeah,
that's what I meant.
It did look like it was more. They did some de-aging makeup on it.
Exactly.
Try and make
a la Back to the Future 2 or something.
And a la Botox or something. I don't know.
Or even Back to the Future.
They use tape a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And hide it under the mask.
Spirit gum.
There was a ton of clips on the back of his neck just pulling that skin tight.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Why do you have hickeys on the back of your neck, Hopkins?
Well, I was in the Mask of Zorro.
Paul, what's something that really was pulled tightly to your likes for Mask of Zorro?
I was really shocked and impressed by a lot of the stunt work, especially on the horses, like how they were able to jump off and jump around back on and off again was really impressive. I know some of that was done with wires and they digitally took out the wires and some of that. Like when he jumps from the building off and misses the horse, that he was on a wire and they digitally took that off. But the fact that those stunts looked really incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's funny because I saw them coming. Like I saw I'm sitting there watching with my kid. I'm like, he's gonna miss the horse. The horse is gonna move. Wait, and then even though you see it coming, it's so satisfying to see those stunts.
Very well done.
Yeah, and it didn't make my life like list so much, but there were so many great set pieces in this movie. The horse chase, the battle in the not prison, the barracks.
Yeah.
The ending climax at the gorge, the sword fights, and
the Thunder Mountain Railroad,
Great Thunder Mountain Railroad.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah,
I was very impressed with it almost felt like I don't know if you guys. I honestly thought this was directed by the same person that directed Pirates of the Caribbean. It had that same flavor of like feel, or that was produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. It had that sort of type of, I don't know, infusion of thrill ride to it, but it wasn't. So
you're close. It was the director of GoldenEye, and it was produced by Steven Spielberg. So that's close.
Okay, that's on the mark. All right. What else was on the mark about this movie for you, Mike?
That's a different movie, The Mark of Zorro.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I absolutely love a good movie sword fight.
Oh,
and
yes.
This movie was chock full of, largely, there are some exceptions, but these people had trained hard. Their movements were crisp. They were well choreographed. Thank you, Bob Anderson.
Yes.
And I had seen this work and I said to my kid, hey, this looks like Bob Anderson. Let's look this up. Like, absolutely is.
Was he the sword, not sword trainer? What's it called?
Sword master.
Choreographer.
Sword master.
Swordmaster on set.
Yes, he was the best of the best. Yes,
and
he's the one who trained Errol Flynn, right?
Yes, and this film
and Darth Vader.
And Darth Vader, and also did the sword work for The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
And this thing looked like a love letter to the Errol Flynn movies, except I think just a little like it had a feel to it that I like better than even Errol Flynn.
It had a lot of punch to it. I mean, it's really, and I don't know if that is also probably in the edit some too. Whereas I think those older movies, there's just a lot of like, okay, let's just set the camera and they go. Whereas this, I think they can punch things up with.
They actually did a little bit of both because the director was a fan. They had some wide shots with the shadows on the wall fighting and stuff because of that.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not trying to take away like Three Amigos where you used what does he say? Trick photography. I'm not trying to say that at all. It's like Antonio Banderas apparently was like trained for a long time.
4 months.
So it was definitely showed on screen, and I would totally echo that, Mike. And Mike, also you bring some sort of I want to say some authority, I guess, to this because you're a fencer yourself, right? Or
you put up fences?
I put up a good defense. I have
chain link.
I have years of experience in historical swordsmanship, and I absolutely love studying the historical manuals. If anybody wanted to get nitpicky with this film, they should be using the Destreza style of fencing rather than Italian, but blah, 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 blah. I don't care. This is a good, fun movie sword fight. It's not supposed to be realistic. It's supposed to be spectacular, and it absolutely was spectacular. Mostly.
Awesome. Mostly. Drew, what was mostly spectacular about this movie for you?
I feel like this is like the perfect superhero movie, and
without a superhero. This is a Batman movie.
This is Batman, and by all technical accounts, is a quote unquote superhero. So I think this counts in many ways. But the fact is, we don't get superhero movies like this anymore, and that's kind of what everything's trying to be this, but they're missing the mark completely. I love that we have this essentially perfect, maybe not perfect, really, really good superhero film that we can at least go back to. And it doesn't have to be over the top because it's not. Yeah, I mean, the fencing is spectacular and it's far better than anything I can do because I can't do any of it. But it's just, it just feels like this is the perfect type of superhero movie. You got good versus evil. You got kind of a redemption story in there with Antonio Banderas' character Alejandro, and you just the whole thing felt like this is like the perfect. I've seen superhero movies like this, and they're just not quite this good.
Yeah. The only quibble I would make with that is I feel like it's more of a revenge flick than a redemption flick. But all right,
no, he kind of goes through a redemption arc.
No, it doesn't. You're wrong.
You know what? You mentioned it's a superhero
revenge is a dish
film.
best served cold, so let's move on.
I was wondering if this is a Western film, just minus the cowboys.
You can have it be a superhero Western.
It didn't really feel Western to me.
Well, it takes place in the Old West.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean it's a Western necessarily.
But I mean, like Tombstone, they didn't have cowboys in it, but it's considered a Western.
Well, wait a minute. This takes place in the same state as Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Is that a Western film?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Oh, and awesome. La La Land must also be a Western,
by that
too.
definition, all three of the Back to the Future movies would be called Westerns instead of just the third one.
This was produced and distributed by the United States of America, so isn't it a Western film as opposed to Eastern? Or?
Yeah, it is an Occidental film. Yeah. I think that I can see no formal logic here.
In other words, genres are stupid.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, anyway.
There's no trains in this movie, but we're way off the rails, guys. Okay, let's get back to
it. That's because Catherine Zeta-Jones blew it up.
My
The Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.
So something
Give it a
else.
second. One will go past my apartment here in a minute.
Something else I liked was I'm of two minds about this, but for this section, I'll say that I really enjoyed the training sequence.
I thought you said there was no train.
Being trained.
Okay, yes, that was a fun scene. Yes,
apprenticeship.
So does it.
Yeah, let's I'll table that for the next section. But
that's why I said so to speak. Yeah.
I really enjoyed how he's being trained. I love the way it sort of kicks off how Anthony Hopkins, Diego de la Vega meets Muertia. I forget what's his name? Alejandro
Antonio Banderas.
Murrieta.
Alejandro.
That's what I said. Anyway, how he meets him in the bar, he's like, he's all drunk and he wants to go and fight, but he's like, there's a saying, there's a very old saying, when the pupil is ready, the master will appear. I just thought that was a great way to sort of kick off this whole training sequence. And I just loved how he is able to escalate and become better and better, going from zero, like the trailer said, to his Zorro. That was clever.
Yeah.
I'm now curious how closely to Hercules this came out, because I feel like one stole from the other for that tagline.
But that's been the tagline forever, hasn't it been? Zero to hero?
Yeah, but these came out close to one another. So.
Yeah, that's fair. But I want to hear what was heroic about this film for you, Paul.
Oh, same thing that Mike was saying is the good sword fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, it's Zorro. You expect some sword fighting, but I wasn't prepared for the Bob Anderson effect to it to come in. So bravo on them for doing that.
Yeah, the part that sticks out the most in my mind, where he's sword fighting both what's his name, Don Raphael and Colonel Love at the same time, and just go. I don't know. It's almost like you could tell he was trying to like focus on both, like one after the other. It didn't feel like someone that just knew the moves and was just going through it. Like force, like they had force sensitivity. It's like, oh crap, okay. It's like he really had to focus. And I don't know, there's just something that really spoke through the swordsmanship in that made it feel real and grounded.
I'm glad it did for you. I can't say the same for me.
Okay, fine. Well, let's not get into the things we didn't like yet, because we have our classic makers, guys, the things we loved most about Mask of Zorro. And I'm going to start things off with Paul this time.
I enjoyed the main cast, specifically of Anthony Hopkins, and also Antonio Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones. The others, they did a good job, especially Colonel Cluster there. But those three really, especially, I was watching whenever they were on screen. I was captivated. I love how they interacted.
Yes,
it was
absolutely
really wonderful to watch.
I'm totally with you there. Like I said, I really liked Anthony Hopkins. Myself and Antonio Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones did a great job. Was this her first movie? It feels like this is at least the one that sort of started
Young
her.
Indiana Jones. We covered it.
And plus Hackers came before this too.
She was in Hackers?
Oh, really? I thought that was Angelina Jolie.
This is probably her biggest.
Yeah, the one that sort of launched her. But.
Yeah, exactly. She was in several little things before. Like you mentioned Titanic earlier, but she was like in the TV version, I think, of Titanic. And
I don't remember her in Young Indiana Jones. But regardless.
Oh my gosh. Maybe that's a good thing.
Was she the one that like was seducing him? That she was
in the
like,
desert?
Yeah. Okay. Regardless, let's stop bringing me nightmares. Come back to me. Let's go to Mike next. What's your classic maker for the Mask of Zorro?
Okay, just kind of zooming out away from the sword work, just the general like tone of all of the practical stunt work. I mean, it just felt like fun whimsy. And I know that he's like punching guys and throwing them out of horses, but throwing them off of horses. But it looks like he's having a great time doing it. Like whether he's on the ropes or not. I mean, it just had a certain style of whimsy and also you could really see and appreciate the practical stunt work.
Absolutely.
Something that you don't see in a lot of like, especially like superhero movies. There's a lot of dynamic camera action. They kind of need the camera to carry the kinetics rather than letting the stunts carry the kinetics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree, because I think today they rely too much on, we'll just fix it in post, like if it's not working out that well. And they rely on the computer graphics to help with that, where this feels really practical and like I said before, it's not all, but it feels that way, and it's great.
I mean, I think it goes back to what we always say about how practical effects, and I don't think we always say this, but I think it's sort of in the zeitgeist of people, certainly of our generation, that practical effects, just there's a realness to them that draws us in more than when everything's CG.
Yeah. Here.
Good. I'm glad you're all in agreement.
I second that.
For me, I'll do my classic maker next, and that's actually, and Drew stole it from me. Woohoo! The score by James Horner. I really liked it. I thought I went back and listened to it again after. And I don't do that a whole lot with the movies we cover on the podcast. I really like I didn't so much like I'll spend my whole lifetime loving you. That I agree, Paul. It's a slow and boring song. I totally 100% back you on that. But the rest of the music, especially the way it starts with the it's not tap dancing.
I was about to say that they use they're not flamingo dancers, but they use the heels and the.
Yes, I love that the percussive element of the Latin style music. That and Japanese music. I love the percussion in those for some reason. But anyway,
good percussion.
It is, and so I really love that driving. My only quibble is James Horner. I know you're passed on, but
we're gonna speak ill of the dead right now. So listen up.
I know you love your bass flute dissonance from Willow and whatever, but you use it too much. Use it in Willow. Leave it in Willow. You don't need to bring it into Mask of Zorro, but it's okay. It fit. I'm just saying, be careful, James Horner. Be careful.
I mean, you know what they say. If you've loved one James Horner soundtrack, you've loved them all.
Yeah.
Do they say that?
No, they do not.
I can kind of see how people could say that.
Yeah. I think that they usually say the less kind thing of self-plagiarist, but I didn't want to say that.
Well, a lot of artists are.
This did sound like Titanic. I knew it. Okay, well, that leaves Drew. What is your classic maker, Drew, for Mask of Zorro?
Antonio Banderas.
Yeah.
Antonio Banderas.
He did such a good, there's a reason, okay? There's a reason that DreamWorks, when they were making Shrek 2, lifted the character and the actor wholesale from this movie and stuck it in a cat's body.
Yeah.
Because it's just the perfect, he fits, this is almost the role he was born to play.
Oh yeah.
You're right down to it. He all his acting for this, I mean, when was really feeling that hatred for
Love,
Calvary. Yeah. Love. Yeah.
Love. Yeah.
Him. I don't think of that as I keep forgetting his name is Love, but the Calvary dork.
You mean cavalry, not Calvary?
Whatever.
You know, the guy that blonde that went up to the cross.
Accent is giving you problems, Paul. I can tell.
Oh, Calgary, like in Canada.
Yeah, he's from Canada, obviously.
Blame Canada.
Oh my gosh.
But no, I mean, his hatred towards him, you can feel it in like almost all those scenes, and you can tell the second he first sees Catherine Zeta-Jones's character, how you can see him immediately fall in love with her, and even though physically nothing's changing, but you gotta get that feel right then and there,
and it's believable.
It's very believable. There's not he's in some ways he's a little bit of a one-note character, but in reality, there's a lot of nuance to his performance that you don't see often. Yeah, and I thought he did a very, very good job in this one.
Absolutely. And what's funny is I was reading the trivia that even though there's this animosity between him and Antonio Banderas' character, he actually
between who? Because we were talking about Antonio Banderas. Okay,
we're talking about Colonel Love. Oh yes, but
Colonel Love.
Just talking about Colonel Love.
Love and Alejandro. Gotcha.
How he said it was really hard for him to dislike or to get into that mindset because Antonio Banderas was so sweet to him. So that's just a fun little bit of trivia that I found. All right, guys. Well, man, those were some great things. But, you know, there's oftentimes things we don't like about the movies we cover. So let's get into this. Oh, does it always happen? Can't seem to remember. There's one more thing I like, guys. I don't know what it is.
One of these days you're going to have to put this in your notes.
The Cellcast. The Cellcast, hosted by Jacob and Drew, review animated movies and TV shows discussing what they appreciate about the medium in whatever form it takes. Whether it's traditional hand-drawn animated movie, claymation shorts, or a 3D CGI series, check out some animated reviews when you subscribe to The Cellcast at thecellcast.podbean.com. And don't forget, Cell is spelled with a C and a single L at thecellcast.podbean.com.
You know, I think I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Oh, you have? Oh, do you subscribe?
Yeah, kinda.
Awesome. Sweet.
That is so weird, because what made you think of them when watching this movie? What does that have to do with anything?
Oh, Paul, I mean, I thought this was pretty obvious, but so the Cellcast has covered How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which is the Jim Carrey one, which is narrated by Anthony Hopkins, and that is based on an animated version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Animated is what the Cellcast covers. It's really,
that's a stretch, because we have not reviewed the Jim Carrey one.
Oh, but how about this?
You said you did, Drew, when I asked you before.
I said we had reviewed the How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I said yes on the original, no on the Jim Carrey.
Oh, then flip-flop what I just said.
All right.
So what does that have to do with this movie?
It is because Antonio Banderas is just such a spirited and animated guy that it's right there leading to reviews of animated film.
Exactly.
Let me take care of it, because I know what Retro's thinking. It's because one day, we will review the rest of the Shrek movies in which Puss in Boots is a character, and he is voiced by Antonio Banderas, who's still doing a Zorro.
That's great if we're reviewing the Shrek movies, but this is the Mask of Zorro.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not the Mark of Zorro or Zorro the series or the Mask for
I thought it was the Mask.
Which
all
also
right,
had a pretty decent animated TV series.
Fine.
Decent?
Would you, Paul, would you be happier if I shared some trivia about the Mask of Zorro?
Yes, that would actually be more in line.
All right, guys. Did you all realize that Sir Anthony Hopkins practiced daily learning to manipulate the whip he used, exactly, because he felt it was very important it is a very important part of Zorro's equipment. Hopkins persuaded director Martin Campbell to even film certain tricks with the whip. So in this humble podcaster's opinion, Hopkins did a great job. Like I mentioned in the review, he's one of my favorite parts of the movie. Yet it was Gomez Adams himself, actor Raul Julia, that was originally going to play Don Diego de la Vega. But he died before he could take the role. Right? So my question to you all is, if Antonio Banderas had died before he could have taken the role of Zorro, the new Zorro, who would you have cast in the titular role?
What role?
You mean
particular role?
The title titular role, Paul.
In the role of Zorro, okay.
Young Zorro.
So let's start with Drew. Who would you have cast instead of Antonio Banderas? Because unfortunately he died in alternate universe.
Well, I had to do some looking to double check on this, because at first when I thought of this person, I thought he's probably aged out of the role by this, but then I found out he's actually 2 years younger than Antonio Banderas. So this actually technically works. He was in a previous film where he dressed all in black and was in a fencing scene and pretended to be somebody else.
Wesley?
Yes.
Carrie Elways?
Carrie Elways, I think, would be the perfect player for Antonio Banderas. Now, if you're going to fight me, the fact that he's not Hispanic.
Anthony Hopkins
I will
isn't,
say
as far as I know.
Anthony Hopkins wasn't either, so if he can pull it off, so can Carrie Elways.
Okay. All right. Fair.
And he looks good in black, too.
He does. That's true. In chat, Dale gives a pretty good one. Benjamin Bratt from like Law and Order, Miss Congeniality. That could have been good. I feel like, I don't know, he has some smarm to him that I don't really think fits with Zorro, but Mike, how about you? Who would you have cast?
I also went looking for actors of Mexican descent, and I am not particularly well-versed in my actors, but I did think maybe that he would have been a little young, but a gentleman of Chilean descent, Pedro Pascal, clearly has the acting chops. He clearly has the action chops. I think he would have been a little young, but I think he could have pulled it off.
Is he who plays Poe in the new Star Wars trilogy, or am I thinking of someone else?
That's someone else. That's Isaac.
That's Isaac.
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac.
You will you would recognize his face. Yeah, as the metal mask.
Okay.
Yeah. But he's also been in a couple other things recently too. I just can't think of him off the top.
He was in Wonder Woman 84. He's been a ton of things. That Nick Cage movie about Nick Cage.
Is in the Wonder Woman 84, is that where he got possessed by Chris Pine?
Bobo, Billy Barney, you would have chosen, really?
Yeah. Okay. He's looking, Wildor's looking for the key.
Oh my gosh. That leaves you, Paul. Who would you have cast?
I also was thinking about someone of Latino descent, and John Leguizamo is usually my go-to because I love him as an actor, and but I don't really think he has like a Zorro presence for some reason. But I was thinking maybe a young Benicio del Toro or a young Javier Bardem back in the day. Maybe, but I don't really know. I mean, I like Mike, my actor recollection on this is very limited. I mean, I the only other one I could think of is like Mario Lopez from Saved by the Bell. And like, can you imagine?
Yes,
him coming in. Hey, Dons, you preppies, how's it hanging? So no, ultimately, Antonio Banderas is the best. I mean, I am so glad they went with him because I mean, he is such a master. Like even at let's put it this way. A lot of the fighting scenes, sword fighting scenes for Sir Anthony Hopkins, they had a double. They wanted to use a double for Anthony or for Zorro himself and Antonio Banderas, but they couldn't because he was better than the stuntmen at the sword fighting.
Really?
So they did good with Antonio.
That's awesome, guys.
Yeah, Bob Anderson said that Antonio Banderas was one of the most talented people that he had trained.
Yeah, well, he also said that about Cary Elwes too. So Drew's got
that about everyone.
Hey, I mean that fight was the best sword fight in cinematic history. So I figure that's got to qualify him for Zorro.
I need to see Cary Elwes versus Antonio Banderas sword fight.
20 years ago.
Gotta see that.
Tomorrow,
exactly. I like
in wheelchairs as they're old men now.
What? I don't think they're in wheelchairs.
Well, by the time you see that fight, they will be.
Yeah, they're in there. Antonio Banderas is 62 this year.
Oh my gosh, how is this true?
I don't know. I've seen 62-year-olds that'll whip you into a shape with a rapier. So
good point.
Yeah.
Bob Anderson was pretty old himself, but he was. All right, great trivia, Francisco.
Thank you, Paul.
And now that we've all had some trivial fun, let's find out what memories you, our awesome rewinders, had about the Mask of Zorro.
Yes. First off, Joseph Diaz says, "Oh, the member berries. It shows its age, but I enjoy it."
Andrew Simpson says, "There was a captain named Love, and I'm pretty sure someone said his name very awkwardly."
I don't remember that, but maybe. Wardell White says,
I'm Captain Love.
Also, Dale is one of the people in chat. If you have a memory of the Mask of Zorro that you did not get to us in time and you're watching live, by all means, share it with us. We will read that right now in this section after we get through these comments.
As long as it's family friendly.
Well, yes. Thank you, Paul, for that's a good addendum. So Wardale White says, I remember falling in love with Catherine Zeta-Jones before she became Mrs. Michael Douglas. I remember having fun watching Antonio Banderas become and or inherit the Mask of the Fox.
Did you know that Spanish word for fox is Zorro?
I assumed that.
Cue the music and that star thing.
All right. Just want to throw that out there. Branson Boykin says, I was a fan of Zorro as a little boy, so seeing my hero on the big screen was amazing. It was a wonderful action thriller.
Nice. Jeff Ames says, all the cool action scenes / sword fights. Catherine Zeta-Jones and Antonio Banderas did well playing off each other.
Stephen Forrester says, everything. This was one of my favorite movies as a kid.
Jeremy Shields says, there was a song stuck in my head for years, and it turned out to be from this movie. It'd pop up in my head now and then, and I'd wonder where it was coming from before I finally Googled it. And now I can't even think of the song.
That's it.
Wow.
Alex Ortiz left a gift of Antonio Banderas saying, yes, the pointy end goes into the other man.
Indeed.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
Dallas Panda Marshall Morris says, I absolutely love this movie. As a kid, I watched several versions of Zorro, including the animated one. I didn't realize there was an animated one.
Oh, yeah.
This movie was special for me, though. I often reenacted the sword fight scenes as a kid. The movie also helped solidify my love for the sport of fencing. From the music to the choreography to the cinematography, this is a classic top-shelf movie.
David Garner says, he quotes, you would have fought very bravely and died very quickly.
Indeed. And maybe there's some things that should have died in this movie very quickly. Let's get into our dislikes of The Mask of Zorro.
Worst clothes.
And I will begin with this one.
You're supposed to kick things off.
Ha 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 ha. No, not this. You can't do it yourself. Watch me, Paul says. One of the things I didn't like, and this is coupled, like I sort of alluded to before with the training scene, is that it really needed like a montage music or something. Like, give me some South Park. It's a montage. But it just seemed like it took, he trained, like Anthony Hopkins Zorro trained Antonio Banderas Zorro in like the course of a couple days. And I feel like there's no way he gets him trained that fast. So I would have appreciated like a montage song or something that showed the passing of time a bit more clear, because there's just a bunch of sequences of him training and apparently getting better over the course of a couple days. So I don't know if that it struck you that any of you guys that way, but it certainly did for me.
No.
Clearly, you don't understand how talented Antonio Banderas is.
They were just waiting for Antonio to sober up. That's all.
Oh, that's all it took? Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. So Mandy Patinkin, it takes like all his life to learn how to sword fight. But Antonio Banderas, it's just a couple days. All right. I see how it is. Mike, what's something you didn't like about this film?
Yeah, the pickled hand scene.
Yeah.
Could he really drink that? I mean, wasn't that formaldehyde or something?
Look, the guy he had built a lot of tolerance with a lot of that alcohol, so drinking formaldehyde is only a short step. I mean, really, I think that it didn't add anything. We understand Zorro hates love.
Yeah,
we didn't need to have the private meeting. You could just scrapped it and it's fine.
Yeah.
I thought it was love revealing like, hey, I know who you are, but I'm not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, but then
weird.
He has the audacity to look surprised when he takes off his mask, like, oh, I'm shocked that it's the person that I thought that I knew that it was.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Like, yeah, that's true. Why is he? He should be like I knew it.
I understand why they included the scene, because they were like shock value and they want people to remember it. But yeah, it seemed unnecessary and didn't quite jive with the rest of the story.
The only thing I could think of is that there is so much of a time lapse in terms of us as a viewing audience between when the last despicable thing Love does, killing his brother, to where he would finally kill Love, that they needed something in there to like reseed in our minds. Oh, this guy, when he gets his comeuppance, it's worth it. Otherwise, it may feel like Zorro's just killing him out in cold blood.
Maybe, because I remember the first couple times of watching this, I didn't realize that was his brother's head or that other guy's or the three-finger Jack's hand.
Yes.
That's because he only killed Three-Finger Jack again right before this.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like, man, that guy won't die.
But yeah, I sort of agree with you, Mike, that you really don't need that.
Yeah.
Drew, what's something that you didn't need in this film?
Well, I don't have the problem with the scene y'all have, but at the same time, why did he drink out of that jar? Even if
Shock
it's
value.
water. Even if it's water, that's the grossest thing he could have done.
Exactly. And then they show him stepping out of the room, and I was expecting to watching him puke.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing that saved it is that from the angle where he actually dips it in, you just see this. The water just looks black. It doesn't look like the hair. It just looks black for some reason. I'm thinking, well, maybe that's just tea or something. But at the same time, it's like, no, that's supposed to be the guy's freaking head. That's his brother.
I mean, did they show love drinking out of it? And this is his way.
No.
So that makes no sense for him to drink out of it.
He's just saying, look, I'm tougher than you.
Yeah. Antonio Banderas had the teacup in his hand. The guy and he just dipped it in there, took a swig, and walked out.
Oh, you think you're crazy? I'm even crazier.
Crazy like a fox.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's Zorro. Paul, did you also dislike that to the point of it making your dislike list, or was there something else?
Something higher on my dislike list. We talked about the stunts, but I thought a lot of the stunts actually, not a lot. There were several that were just way over the top and more theatrical. Like at the beginning, he's going to, like at the firing squad, you're going to take one whip and you're going to turn all the guns over instead of at the people in front of you to the side and shoot one of the bad guys instead. You're going to, there were several, I'm trying to remember, like the horse. Yes, a horse can kick two guys at once, but the way they did it was a little bit over the top and theatrical. There's a lot of stunts like this where I felt was, it could have been better served as toning it down. I don't know how you get, like you surround all the troops and you like trip them with your whip or something like that. It's like, let's be a little realistic here, I guess. I don't know. It's just.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the over the topness approached silly.
Yes.
And to you, that was a turnoff. To me, it was
not
like,
only silly, it's cartoon level when they dogpile him and he just crawls out of the bottom of the dog pile. I mean,
yeah, I loved that.
I enjoyed that as well.
I suppose you have just preferred him to like use his Matrix powers to blast him out of and have all the Agent Smiths go everywhere.
Put him in those positions.
I am of this same mind with you, Paul, though I think probably for fewer stunts. For me, the one that just, and this happened a couple times, where he would take a fall off like 2 or 3 story building and just like, just get up. You would break an ankle, your legs. You would not just be walking around. From that
he lands like a fox. They know how to do that.
I watch. He does not like do any sort of compression with his knees or anything, or like do a roll to.
No, he falls over like a doll.
He just like collapses back. I'm sorry, your legs are busted up. You are not.
At the very least, he should at least have the breath knocked out of him when he lands like that.
Sure. Okay.
At the very least, and granted, he should be a lot worse than, but he gets up fairly quickly for someone who just fell off a 3-story building.
Well, look how fast he recovered from the formaldehyde. This dude's strong.
Maybe that's preserving him.
Yeah.
Maybe he's been building up an immunity to formaldehyde for all this time.
And falls from several stories high.
Exactly. Oh, you just start off with like 1 foot and then 2 feet, then the next day 3 feet, and just you go up a little bit by a little bit. You eventually build up that large. Yeah, exactly.
And if you were going to land on a horse from that height, that would hurt so bad.
And imagine what pain you put that horse through by doing that.
Yeah, you break the horse's back, maybe.
Nobody wins in this one.
Yes, exactly.
Well, the horse wins when he moves.
That horse was the smartest character in this film.
By the way, did he ever end up naming the new horse Tornado, or was it just
no? He didn't.
The horse. Okay,
I never heard a name for the horse.
All right, that's.
I was about to say it's Tornado, but I guess I assumed
that was the other one.
Yeah.
Because I don't think a horse lives that long. I mean, I think
no.
It's not supposed to be the original Tornado.
No, it's not.
Let's go back to.
Sorry, the confusing moments. Can we take a moment? I don't think this is on anyone's dislike list.
Okay,
but and maybe it's just me. Mm-hmm. At the beginning, spoiler alert, when Anthony Hopkins' wife is shot, killed at the beginning, but when the baby is taken away out of the building and Anthony Hopkins is in the jail thing, looking out at his burning house. He sees the bad guy carry the baby, and there's some horses there, and there's a woman on the horse that looks like the wife that was just shot. So it looks like she survived and that she's being taken off too, but later it says that she's killed.
I imagine that's the nanny.
Yes. I thought, oh, that must be the nanny on the second watching of this, because I was rewatching again with the commentary. And I'm like, oh, wait, this was never addressed, but it was really confusing when watching it. It was like, wait, I thought she just died. Oh, she recovered. Later in the movie, no, she's dead. Did anyone else get confused by that?
If it was the nanny, wouldn't she have gone with them, since that was something the child knew, and then maybe killed when they got to Spain? Because we know the nanny survived because she gives that flower to that dress to her.
There's continuity there that isn't explained well.
Yeah,
but I was just wondering if anyone else was tripped up by that.
I didn't even notice another woman there.
It didn't hit me, so
yeah.
Never mind.
Your eyes are just too keen, Paul. Mike, what were you not so keen on about this movie?
Yeah, that my second dislike, and I'm gonna get so much crap for this.
You don't like Catherine Zeta-Jones. I mean, all right, I guess.
I did not. Okay, I'll just say this. There is such a thing as a fencing strip. That's not what it looks like.
You mean when they're fighting each other and he's stripping her?
I did not like that scene for a few reasons.
Are you talking about like when he actually
sexy
like
sword fight?
Okay.
Yeah.
Like because when you say fencing strip, I'm like, is this like a strip that like a paper or a blade, or is this some technical term I don't know? Okay.
No,
it's stripping the woman of her clothes. With
a fencing strip is in sport fencing. It's the area you fight on. In this movie, it's stripping her of her clothes while you're fighting.
Oh, so you're making a pun that was just way above my pay grade. Okay, I got it.
This is going to take a lot of work.
Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, first of all, she says, I've been training with this since I was 4, and her her structure is sloppy.
Sure.
She only had like 6 weeks to train. Antonio Banderas had 4 months. I think that visually it represented a desperate mismatch. To me, it looked like he's taken advantage of her. Not that this is a thing among equals. I know that Catherine Zeta-Jones loved that scene. She thought it was fun. She thought it was hot. But to me, it didn't settle well.
I love the music in it. I thought it was just really great going back and forth between them two. But I could see that. Of course, I certainly don't have the eye for someone to be able to tell the difference between someone who's trained for 4 months versus a few weeks. It looked fine to me.
Or 40 years, or since they were 4.
Yes. Yeah. But that's totally fair.
It's totally subjective.
I get that.
If Catherine Zeta-Jones's character is an only child, she's probably used to getting her own way and like slacking off during her lessons. And so just because she's been practicing since she was 4 doesn't mean she's any good.
Yeah.
Well, I've been practicing. Have you had a teacher? No, but I've been swinging around a lot.
I mean, let's face it, her father, I do think, kind of spoiled her a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, father.
Yeah, we got it, Drew. What didn't you like about this film, Drew?
So apparently Mike and me are on the same wavelength, even if we come at it from 2 different angles, because I don't like that scene either when he does the fencing strip, as we called it. And I'm also not a fan of that other scene where, after they steal a guard's clothes and they're standing around the cactus buck naked.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Did you see the one guy on the left is totally leaning into it?
I know.
That was so painful.
And don't get me wrong, it's first
funny.
One is funny. But the more I've watched this film, the more I've gone, this is completely unnecessary. It is not adding that much comedy to the scene.
Right.
Especially since 2 seconds later is when the brother's going to get killed. So,
yeah.
I kind of wish we'd have just not tried to go for a laugh there.
I laughed.
I thought it was funny.
Funnier way. Like, I feel like you could have done some just comical that didn't look so painful, I guess. Yeah.
And then with the fencing strip scene, it's just like, I get it, but it does really feel like this was our excuse to make the movie PG-13.
I was just about to say, what do you want, a PG movie?
Hey, I'm fine with PG okay. if the acting's good and the story.
Yeah, I was about to say, so ratings. You take away the head and formaldehyde scene, you take away the strip fencing scene, and
it could be a movie
strip soldiers. Yeah, I was about to say, then you're down to PG,
and I'm fine with this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? I can see how taking those out wouldn't necessarily make the movie any worse.
Yeah. No, I agree. It would have been just as fine.
Yeah.
Though I think you do need some element, like she has this experience with Antonio Banderas' character. I forget what his pseudonym is when he's pretending to be a royal. But they have that interaction. I feel like you also need more of him as Zorro interaction.
Yeah.
Sure. So I'm not sure what that looks like though if they don't have.
Well, I enjoy the sword fighting scene between them.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't need that last bit.
All right,
yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
how can you do that without hurting her? Anyway,
I don't think that's. I think that's
the
movie
same
magic.
way he can fall off of a 3-story building and not even.
That's right.
You're right. This is a superhero movie.
I told you it was. We just don't ever see the superhero landing.
Yeah. Well, we did. Wow. He fell over like a rag doll.
Because that's not the superhero landing.
Paul, what really fell flat for you about this film?
Okay, Captain Goldilocks. I understand his. I understand. Look, Colonel Cluster there, I understand his
Colonel
motivation.
Love, guys. Why do you keep saying Cluster? If you're going for Custer...
Cluster's last stand.
It's Custer, not...
Fine.
I keep
Colonel Mustard's last stand.
Because the man does not deserve the name of love.
Anyway, his final confrontation with Zorro.
Is there any Zorro left? Yes or no?
His final confrontation, I do not believe this character, whatever you want to call him, Mr. Blondie, Colonel Love.
Yes.
I don't believe his character is such a high honor that he respectfully keeps his enemies' heads in jars and that he chivalrously throws away his gun to fight mano a mano against Zorro.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't really think about that. It seems like
it doesn't make any sense for this character to be you know what? I'm going to do the honorable thing and not kill you like I want to.
But I will say this, Paul. This is a throwback to, if you have not listened to it, on our website, you could go there right now and check out the one.
This is a long
the
setup.
only episode, retrorewindpodcast.com/96, where we cover Predator. And in the movie Predator, that alien species, they are a very honor-bound species, and they have trophies of their kills. Of course, they don't kill themselves. So maybe that's a little different.
I don't know where you're going, but Colonel Love should not have thrown away his gun. It didn't make any sense.
I'm trying to say it doesn't necessarily negate his honor just because he keeps trophies, but that's actually if he kept trophies of like deer or animals he killed, lesser beings, that would make more sense.
Yeah.
Just like Prayer makes trophies of us, lesser beings. So, okay. So it doesn't make sense.
What would have been better is if he went to draw his gun and Zorro used his whip to disarm him.
That would have been so much better. Yes.
Yeah. That would, fine. Do that. But no, a simple thing like that, no.
Yeah. Good read there, Mike. Then that leaves the last thing, one more thing I just like before we get to our most hated things, our tragic makers. And that's, that, I already said it. Never mind. I guess it's just pretty much with you, Paul, that jumping down onto a horse would break your legs. Though there was,
that's not the only thing it would break.
I'll throw this in since you were confused about the woman at the beginning, Paul. I was confused about this. So when Catherine Zeta-Jones' character Elena is in the market and the nanny comes up and gives her the scarf thing, it sounds like the nanny's speaking Spanish, but shouldn't they all be speaking Spanish? So I'm very confused why everyone's speaking English, but the nanny's speaking Spanish.
It might be an indigenous.
That's what I thought, but it sounded Spanish, so I was confused.
Unless it's like a Mexican native, a peasant Spanish instead of a proper Spanish that the nobles might be speaking.
I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Honestly, I didn't think too much about it.
I sort of thought, and then it could be indigenous language. You're
100% right there, Francisco.
Yeah. Thank you. I like being right. Okay, guys, what is dead wrong, though, about this movie are tragic makers. Let's go to Drew. What did you hate most about this film?
What did I hate most about The Mask of Zorro?
That Jim Carrey wasn't the mask, wasn't Zorro.
That would be weird.
Not once did the mask talk at all. It was all the people wearing it.
How on earth did Johnny Three Fingers survive that first fight?
Because the bullet didn't get a major
part.
Liver.
Yeah.
I guess it just felt really. I didn't notice it till this viewing of the film, that was Johnny Three Fingers that yelled at them from the top of Big Thunder Mountain.
Yeah, I
just thought it was some other random dude.
That's another thing that didn't make sense.
Go ahead. How did he survive? They all look dead. And
yeah. Well, go back before that. Why was he capturing the Marietta brothers, taunting them with water, and then the next scene they're like, "Oh, we're in this together,"
because it was a scam.
But why you don't? But this was before the scam. He's taunting them with water.
Because why do you guys tease me with the name Roy? Why?
No, there's a difference between teasing and dragging you through the desert and starving you.
No, it's the same. Take note. It's the same.
All right.
Roy, I'd like to point out I've kept my mouth shut with that this entire episode till you brought it up.
Well,
you know what?
I need an example.
Whatever you say, Roy.
Anyway,
you brought this on yourself.
I did not bring anything on myself.
Yeah, but that whole Three Fingers character, the way they treated him, I was confused too.
Oh, okay, that's
it just felt weird that he somehow survived instead of them just cutting the head off while he was before. They were ordered to. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you there. Yeah, it seems like kind of weird to imprison him for that long and not imprison. Well, I guess the brother killed himself. It wasn't and then Colonel Love just took his head. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, I don't have an answer for you. And I probably don't have an answer for why you dislike, what your major dislike is with this movie, Mike, but let us know what that is.
Yeah, I felt like the movie really had a hard time keeping a momentum and direction between the party scene and the climax.
Ooh,
and there were a lot of emotional leads to explore, and rather than picking and choosing or doing some of them by nuance, they sat down and explored every single one of them. And I felt like it really dragged the second act.
You know what? Yes. I felt like so much of this movie was very well paced, but there was a lot in there that I was just like, all right. I was still invested, and it's been so long since I've seen this movie that I'm like, okay, I wasn't like bored or anything, but now that you mentioned that, yeah, it did seem like it was trying to do too much, and it did bog it down some, for sure. Did Drew or Paul, did you feel that way at all?
I didn't notice, but I understand. It is a long movie.
I was surprised it was 2 hours, but when I went back
over 2 hours. And it felt
6
like it
minutes over 2 hours, Paul.
I thought it was like 16, no?
No, 6 minutes.
6 minutes, and that's about the length of the end credits. So,
okay.
It felt like 2 hours and 16.
I will admit that there was some pacing issues, I think, in the last half of the film.
Yeah,
but for the most part, by that point, I mean, I was just there for the ride.
Yeah,
so it didn't bother me that much.
Yeah, all right. In fact, I would have liked to seen it in a 3-hour extended version instead of having that stupid white text on black background at the beginning. But you know,
oh my gosh. All right. Well, the thing I wish wasn't in this movie was I guess it's kind of a throwaway line, but they do bring it back toward the end. And it's something that Antonio Banderas says to Catherine Zeta-Jones in the confessional. I may not get this completely right, but he says the only sin is to deny what your heart feels. I'm like, oh my.
Well, he's not a priest. Do you actually expect him to be quoting the Bible?
But he is the heroic character that we're like aspiring to.
No, he needs to be saved. He's aspiring to be us.
Uh-huh. Okay.
This is part of the redemption arc that they didn't have.
Good point, because this is a revenge flick. Yeah, that's right.
I said it was an arc. I didn't say it was a story. There's a friggin' difference.
No, it's the same. But I don't think, much like you didn't need a lot of the things that happened in the second act, I don't think you needed that at all. I don't know. I just feel like he could have said something like, I don't feel like that's a sin, or I don't know. I just something that didn't.
You would have had a problem with that.
No, I wouldn't have. I just don't like the message that a lot of movies in this era like to say that follow your heart.
You mean the late 20th century, early 21st century?
Exactly that time frame.
Day?
Yeah.
I feel like it's not as subtle as it used to be, but yeah. Yeah, just the whole like follow your heart.
Subtle recently.
You're whatever. As long as you follow your heart, you'll never go wrong. Oh, okay. So serial killers that follow their hearts are, and I know that's always the like stream that I go to, but if you follow the logic, it's like you can't. Your heart is, what is it?
Whoa, Francisco, you're getting into absolute truths there.
Imagine that I believe in absolute truth. What?
Yeah, I found that scene a little.
In absolutes.
I found that scene a little cringy too, and I think that it would have been funnier if he was awkwardly trying to find like, it's been like 6 years since my last confession. What do priests give for this? 12 Hail Marys. 12?
Yeah, something that.
Wait, 3? Like, shouldn't it be like have them haggle as to
yeah, exactly.
You could do something that's awkward with him trying to do it. And
it would be funny.
You know what? Get a Catholic to write that scene.
Granted, I'm not Catholic, but when I realized he didn't give her anything to do, it's like,
yeah, I noticed that too.
Skipped a step.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even if what you don't think what she did was a sin, I'm sure she committed a sin and needs some of your salvation.
Absolution. Yeah, exactly.
Absolution. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the thing that really.
Yeah, I agree that scene didn't feel as authentic as it could have in a humorous way.
Yeah. Exactly. I think they were going for humor, but yeah, it didn't quite land. Paul, that leaves you. What was your tragic maker for The Mask of Zorro?
Oh boy, if you think I had a problem with Colonel Goldilocks, the main villain himself, Raphael, not the Ninja Turtle, but Don Raphael. It's 2 turtles in one.
Oh my gosh.
At the beginning, he said he's talking to Zorro, and Zorro asked him, "You would sacrifice 3 men to kill me?" He said, "I would sacrifice 100. But by the end of the film, he also throws away his gun and tries to go after. He doesn't shoot him. Like, here's your chance, the person you've been going for your whole life, or at least the past 20 years. And
he threw away his gun? I don't remember that. When did that happen?
You want to pause here and find out?
No, just explain it to me. Like when they're finding up above where the gold
at the Thunder Mountain Railroad.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And so Raphael has a gun and doesn't shoot him.
He has he could shoot him.
He has the double shot.
Yeah, and he doesn't.
Okay. Yeah, that's dumb.
He goes for the sword instead.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
So, I mean, you're building up since the very beginning opening scene. And you don't pay it off logically. You don't follow your character arc that you set up as the main conflict of the entire film. So it is the worst thing about this film for me.
That's totally valid, Paul. I can get that. I can get behind that. But I am curious if I can get behind our final reigns, guys. So now that we've entered all our trajectories into the firing computer, I also have a firing solution for us.
Firing solution complete. Rating salvo at the ready. On your mark.
All right, it's time for the moment of truth. Do we rate The Mask of Zorro a classic? We'd recommend anyone go see this movie, whether or not you've seen it before. A nostalgic, it's worth your time to rewatch if you enjoyed it as like a kid or a young adult. But if you've never seen it before, don't waste your time with it. Or do we rate it a tragic? It's worth no one's time today. If you've never seen it before, keep it that way. And if you have seen it before, don't rewatch it because you may sully some of the good memories you have of it. So let's begin with our guests. Let's start with Mike. You had predicted nostalgic. What did your final rating end up being for Mask of Zorro?
Yeah, when I hit the party scene, I'm like, my like list was so long. I was thinking I was going to go classic, but this is kind of really on the edge for me. Ooh. But in the end, my tragic maker bumped me down to a nostalgic. So I think
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Now I'll admit I did have to stop the movie for like 10 minutes to try and to do something, so there might have affected my perception.
That ruined everything.
But I still am going to stand by nostalgic.
Oh, so we almost had a tragic.
Yeah, it was.
It was able to push through.
Yeah, it was 2 hours and 16 minutes of garbage. I just couldn't stand it.
Wow. Oh my word. All right. So nostalgic for Mike. Drew, what was your final rating?
I'm sticking with classic.
Classic. Okay.
This is just a fun movie that I enjoy watching. It held up in my eyes, all these years later. It's a classic film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Let's get to let's get to Paul next. You had predicted.
We won't go with the.
I'm going to do that as well. I guess I could do that before us.
You have been, but we don't have to continue that way.
And so, if you support us on the locals at the main support level is $5 now, then you can help vote on every movie we cover on the podcast. We just ask that you have watched the movie in the last 2 years. And then you can vote, and then we average all your votes together, and everyone who's a reflex capacitor, who voted, all the votes coalesced to a nostalgic. So right now, the score is 2 nostalgics and 1 tragic. So,
all right. So
with that,
tragic.
2 nostalgics and 1 classic. I'm sorry.
I was about to say.
I was about to say if Francisco and I rate this tragic, we could sink this film.
Oh my gosh. Paul. Okay. Well, you had predicted nostalgic. Did it sink far enough for you that it became a tragic?
I'm having flashbacks to when we originally covered this film.
Wait,
Didn't
what?
you say one of
How
your...
could you do that?
Oh, you know what? Memories are coming back to me too. I wonder if this means it was the right riddle.
Hopefully.
That must have been, okay.
Because wasn't one of your dislikes like the wildcat sound and the fire coming out?
Oh,
that was so dumb.
Yeah, I think that was. And what was that about?
Like in the fire? I'm surprised that didn't make your dislike, because I thought I remember you saying that last time.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? Because you know what jungle animal sound should have been played?
But I was wondering where in the world you were going with that. But okay.
But all kidding aside, this was a fun action film adventure. I had fun watching, despite its flaws. I'm actually looking for. I want to watch the sequel now because it's been a while since I've seen it. I'm wondering how that holds up. So I rate this a classic.
It doesn't.
Whoa, a classic. I've never seen the sequel actually. Maybe there's a reason.
But I would recommend it to anybody.
Have you watched The Incredibles? It's better.
Yes.
It's the same story but better.
Okay. Then in chat live here, I just want to read out some of these just so you get a flavor of what everyone in the community thinks. Dale would rate it a nostalgic. Kevin Joshua Burnham would rate it a classic. I think that's, let's see. And Baba wants to watch Garbage Pail Kids for some reason. Okay.
I think Kevin, he would, never mind.
So so right now it's tied. 2 nostalgics, 2 classics. That leaves me. What do I rate this? Well, yeah, that tiger sound totally tragic. I hate this movie so much. I actually had a lot of fun with this movie. There were some things that I just didn't care for, but on the whole, it was a fun ride. I liked the characters. There wasn't enough for this movie to really make me feel like it wasn't worth anyone's time today, so I rate it a classic as well.
Whoa, your heart grew a size. That's why it reminded you of the Cellcast. Because they covered the original.
I got it, Paul. Thank you.
It's good to know you have some taste, Francisco.
According to the Retro Rewind, don't make me change my rate. According to the Retro Rewind podcast, we rate The Mask of Zorro a disputed classic film. We recommend anyone go out and see this, whether or not you've seen it before. But now it's time to get back to our own time. Good old 20XX.
20XX?
Comsat online. Receiving incoming transmission.
Feels good to be back, but we wouldn't have been able to travel back to 1998 to begin with if it weren't for our amazing reflux capacitors, namely Deborah Powers, Geek Devotions, Drew of the Cellcast. Oh, you're right here! Hey! Ashley Ruiz, Kennethan, Fabulous Lomax, Rosie Lomax, That's Our Babo, D. Tungsten, Dale, Mr. Lost, Daryl Hafner, Cool Deluxe, Redeemed Otaku, in addition to 2 other awesome patrons as well. Thank you all so much for keeping the gigawatts coming. And if you want to help us keep flying and get bonus content for your generosity, head over to retrorewindpodcast.com/support to start.
This stream is sponsored by BullJPowers.com.
Hey, Francisco, are there any freeways to show some support?
Freeways?
Yeah, like highways. Like what roads are there ways to show support? Byways?
Some free ways to show support. Yeah, actually, yeah, Paul. If you're listening to this right now, you probably enjoyed this episode in some capacity. So if you made this far, and you aren't driving, tap that share icon in your podcast player, or if you're listening online, there's probably a share button there. And send this episode to a friend of yours saying, I know you like The Mask of Zorro, so I thought you would like this podcast on it.
Cool.
So that'd be a great free way to get the word out about the podcast and support us.
And I bet you they'll thank you for it. And speaking of thanking people, we also want to give a big Zorro hug, but not mark you up too badly, but to Mike Fraley and Drew Dodgen for supporting us with their thoughts about The Mask of Zorro. So I'd like to go alphabetically. We'll start with you, Drew. Where can people find you online? Is there anything cool you got going on?
You can join us at the Cellcast podcast. That's at cellcast.podbean.com, where we review animated movies and TV shows. Except once every 2 months, we do this thing called the Cellcast Plus, where we review a live action film. So if that throws you off, that this Friday, as a recording, we're reviewing Dr. Strangelove. We're sorry, and we don't care. So that's pretty much what I've been doing.
All right, thanks for throwing me off.
Oh my gosh. Any excuse.
And Mike, where can people find you online? Is there anything cool you got going on?
Well, I am one of 3 co-hosts for the Geek at Arms podcast, a podcast camped at the crossroads of geek culture and Christian faith. And you can find us at geekatarms.com, or you can reach out to me. I run the Twitter at ArmsGeek on Twitter.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much to you, Mike, Drew, Paul, my awesome friend, and all you rewinders, new or old. Thank you for another fun voyage with us.
Hey, Captain. You are welcome. I am pauljpowers.com, and you can find me at pauljpowers.com.
Whoa, it's like a website. And you can find me on our Discord for show announcements or just to say hi. Join us there at retrorewindpodcast.com/Discord.
This podcast is a proud member of Culture Box, a curated collection of podcasts, videos, and articles that will provide you a balanced meal of content. You will find culture celebrated for its past and future, satirized for its extremes, explored in study, and created anew in story. Point your web browser to culturebox.media.
That narrator didn't sound like Anthony Hopkins either. That's okay. As Nathan just said, we are now part of the Culture Box Media Network. Find all the shows unpacking truth through story, comedy, and geekery at culturebox.media. And with that, Captain, it looks like we need to wait for the next riddle to unlock.
Yeah, I think we only just have one more. I hope this was right. It seems like it was because our memories are coming back.
Yeah.
But thank you, EXO, and thank you all for listening. We pray you are more joyful today than when you first hit play. But like a Pokemon, we got to catch you all for the next episode, wherever that is. Help us to figure it out in our ships by listening to our ship's logs, sending us in your audio message of what you think the answer is. And then we'll get to our next episode of the Retro Rewind Podcast.
Fourth dimension of Doom mission complete. Decoding next riddle. View RRP ship's logs for more details.
This is the most stupid thing I've ever done. I don't know.